Well, greetings and welcome. Happy Monday. A warm welcome to each and every one of you, my League of Eagles. This is Leaders and Legacy in Style, the Divine Masculine and the Divine Feminine, connected and balanced out. We're streaming on Facebook Live and YouTube, LinkedIn, and many other social media platforms. I'm thrilled you're here. I am Joy Ruffin, your minister of enlightenment, awareness, and awakenings. You see how I'm smiling when I say that. And your signature style and leadership specialist. The theme this month, oh my goodness, it's a season of joy and thanks. Celebrate you. I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this wonderful conversation that we're going to have today. It's a time to pause, to give thanks and honor the light you bring to every space you enter. Today's focus, today's featured guest speaker, oh my goodness gracious sakes alive. I'm so honored to have this young man here with us today because his work intrigues, ignites, and excites something in me because I've been through it. And it's a time for all of us to give it a wee bit more thought. Our featured guest today, everyone knows I have an issue with names, and he was so gracious and kind. I hope I'm getting it right. It's Jason Wendroff-Rawnicki, or something very close to that. Jason is a body-centered grief therapist, and there's another title that we can give it. I could share so much more with you about him, but I want us to have as much time as possible to talk about what's happening for a lot of people during this holiday grateful season that we're entering into now. First is Thanksgiving, and then we go into the Christmas season. So before we get going, all I want you to do, you know the drill, sit back, relax, get comfortable, grab whatever makes you comfortable, and help me welcome our featured guest speaker. Jason, as they say on the telly, come on up.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me here, Joy. You bring the joy, but I bring the hope. So that's...
I love that. Yeah. I love that. That is so powerful. Jason, you know, there's so many names that we could use, and you helped me out a little bit with this, but you're labeling yourself, titles and labels we all know about, people like you and I, but a body grief therapist. And then there's another name that you use. Tell us a little bit about that name and how you combine the two of them and how you came to do this great and much needed work that you're doing.
Yeah, 100%. So I call myself a somatic grief therapist, and the word somatic just stands for body, a body-centered grief therapist. And the way it's actually being used today, like kind of in social media and stuff, it's usually just about movement, but I also focus on the sleeping, right? The eating, the movement. How do we keep ourselves vital? How do we keep our body energized and excited? And so that's why I chose the body-centered grief therapy route, because when I lost my sister Lauren in a car accident in 1998, I realized that talk therapy was not going to just cut it for me because it's only dealing with emotions and thoughts. But I realized that the body was a really vital component for me to start to heal and start to move forward and start to find not just the hope, but the joy again in my life. And so I turned to the body just as much as I learned to manage my own emotions and reframe my own thinking. And so that is what really got me down into body-centered grief therapy, is so that I reverse engineered what was working for me and my healing journey. And so now I'm helping other people do the same.
Jason, I love that. And I think that description and that explanation was spot on. You and I met through a great mentor that we both work with, that we both love and adore, because he's absolutely top of the line in every way. But I shared with you that I could connect because I lost my sister, and that was one of the deepest loss that I'd ever felt. Mm-hmm. And you gave me a lot of tips and tools and nuggets that I have embodied and think about and know within me now that it's all okay. But let's talk about how the body holds on to our challenges. You mentioned it, you alluded to it briefly, but there's so much more, that eating, that sleeping, and all that other stuff, that movement of the body. So share with us how the body holds on to these challenges that most of us will be met with at some time in life.
Sure. Like, our body is a recording device. It just remembers all of the things that we do on a cellular level. And when we don't get a chance to like either express the emotions, or when we're in that sort of negative spiral, our cells respond to the vibrations. Our thoughts are vibrations, and negative thinking can create havoc in the body because it causes negative cell development. And so if we can either work from the body up, like taking care of our health and wellness, making sure that we're sleeping well, making sure that we're eating really good quality foods, making sure that we're supplementing our body with the proper nutrients that we need, that we're not always getting through our diet, making sure that we're managing our stress, because they're showing that cortisol levels are really, really critical in, us being able to live a more vibrant life. And so if you're tired, if you're exhausted all the time, even if you're sleeping 7 hours and wake up still tired, it's just an indicator that the body is holding on to something. And I know a lot of people that even don't process their grief effectively wind up with dis-ease in their bodies down the road because they haven't learned appropriate ways of expressing and letting the cells release what they're holding on to.
Jason, I can listen to you because I receive and I embody what you share, and it's very powerful. You said something that as soon as you said it, it resonated, and I never thought about this. You said our bodies are like a recording device.
Mm-hmm.
That's so simplistic, but I don't think many of us give that thought until we hear it. Yeah. And we receive it. So then if that's the case, and that we're in the AI technology mode and media now, how do we offset some of this stuff? What are some of the things that you share with any of us who've gone through or are going through now this grief period in our lives? Yeah. What are some of the ways that we can walk away, get away gradually? Nothing happens overnight. We all know that. But what are some of the things that you can share with us that can happen?
100%. So I think one of the most effective ways of even dealing with any kind of loss or any situation that you're going through is to look at your diet, right? That's an easy adjustment that you can make. Making sure that you're hydrating a little bit better. And that's not, you don't have to go crazy, but just maybe having an extra glass of water throughout the day. Because when we're hydrated, our body is in a better space to be able to deal with any of life's challenges, not just grief, not just loss, but any of the challenges life brings. If we're making sure that we have enough omegas in our diet, because omega is fantastic for brain health. And once our brain is healthier, it's easier to deal with the negative emotions that life can throw at you. Making sure that you're sleeping between 7 and 9 hours a night. For many people, that's a challenge because they don't give themselves that space. And they're actually showing that getting good quality sleep may even be more important than diet and exercise. So that's a simple thing that you can start to tweak so that this way you can make it more efficient and making sure that you're getting good quality sleep.
Yeah, and I think when you end it with good quality sleep might be the number one or at the top of the list. I think that's true because a lot of people, for all the reasons, aren't sleeping, and that's can be attributed to a lot of things. But you know what you said, Jason, we have a great sense of humor together, you and I. When you said, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go crazy. And I thought of that song back in the day, Let's Go Crazy. We need to go crazy sometimes. So I don't even remember who made that song, but I remember it was Let's All Go Crazy. But you're right. We don't have to go crazy. Baby steps.
Yeah, because what happens is that, listen, my lifestyle changes happened over years. So because I was able to do one simple change and let it be a habit, and then I added another thing on top of that and another thing on top of that. So 1% improvements are actually more sustainable over time than if you I have to throw out all the junk food and not eat, and drink all the water and do all the things. It gets overwhelming. We'll do it for a week. We'll do it for 2 weeks, but then it gets too complicated. So we need to simplify things. So when I work with people, it's not about making this huge shift at once. It's tiny incremental changes.
This is so true because I think I say this often and all the times. I am so repetitive, and I like that I am. We are so in the Insta society. Most all of us, regardless of what it might be, we want overnight success or instantly success coming to us. And so when you say that, it's about baby steps. And that leads me to how the stories we tell ourselves become the outcome. So how does that tie in with what you just spoke about?
Yeah, so because our thoughts are vibrations, right? And then they affect the cells of our body. And if we spend too much time focusing on all that we've lost, right, then we're focusing on what we don't have rather than focusing on all of the beauty and the joy that exists in our life right now. Even if you're going through a loss, right? Like one of the big things is I talk about how my sister lived more so than how she died or what she left behind or the sorrow. So if I can talk about her life, then she becomes more present actually in my life right now, not from the past.
That's what you gave me when I spoke with you for the first time, because my sister was and will always be the love of my life in every way, because we were like thicker than thieves in the best way. But I started to think about all the good times we had together, all the laughter we had and all the fun we had, and even the disagreements we had, and how we could communicate and still walk away and give each other a good hug and a kiss goodnight. You know what I mean? So right. I get what you're saying, and that's so powerful and so true for most of us. I don't think it's easy to do, especially in those initial beginning stages of grief.
Right. That's 100%. And even the stories that we tell go into the language that we use. So when you said my sister was, right, like that's past tense. I try to say as best as possible, my sister is in the present tense, right? So the language that we use is important in the stories that we tell, because once again, it affects the cells of the body. If we speak about our lost ones in the present, then they are present for us.
Yeah, I get it. And after I spoke with you, that's why I said my sister was, and then I changed to say, that kind of thing, because habits are hard to break, but if you're consistent and persistent, sooner than later, you will acquire it and come to what you need to. I tell you, Jason, I think the work you're doing is so needed for all of us, because everyone has lost a loved one. And if not now, at some point in time, and how we deal with it is important. I'm going to take a quick little reset now. And then when I come back, I want to talk about single ways to break these patterns and these habits. You mentioned it briefly, but I want to really expound on it much deeper. So hold tight, and I'll be back with you in just a second. For now, my League of Eagles, my ladies and my gents, if you're not a member of Leading Ladies, Leaving Legacies, why not? You belong there, because you shine, you lead, and what you leave behind, it matters. And don't think for a moment that you have nothing to leave behind, because that's very negative thinking. Your vision, the mission, and the purpose of what you're here to do, don't ever deny it or put it on the bottom of the barrel, because you belong, like any and everyone else, to leave your legacy. That's what Jason is doing, sharing his grief and how to overcome it with millions of other people, and you can do the same. This group is great because you will be able to connect with many other women and collaborate. See how you can both support each other. And in conjunction with that, my Style Clarity package is still available. The beauty, a one-on-one session with me. And it's not about just the exterior. It's about what is emanating from within and how you're showing up, knowing your body shape and all the variables that go in to give you a presence that speaks to your radiance, your power, and the style that's indigenous to you. So don't let this get by. Don't let it go by you. Now, Jason's poster graphic. We want you, this is a beautiful poster. Take a screenshot, take a snapshot. This guy is one who's going to be able to support you in so many ways. I cannot tell you, just a brief conversation, not even being a part of his tribe or team in the traditional way, what the information that he shared with me was so helpful for me in dealing with a lot of stuff that I'm dealing with. So what you have is an assignment. You know, we love homework here. Take a screenshot or a snapshot and make sure you align with him. And that said, Jason, share with us some ways that we can break the patterns and the habits that most all of us come here with. For however, it doesn't matter the race, the age, the background, the culture, all of that stuff. How do we begin to break these patterns and these habits to begin to open up a whole new terrain that we're more positive in and enlightened?
So I want to just say one thing. Everybody's patterns are different. And that's why I believe in working with a framework, no stages or anything, because we're all so unique individuals. We have to celebrate our own, unique way in which we do things, including grief, including loss.
Yes.
But there's 3 steps in order to be able to figure out and change patterns. Step 1 is to be able to identify the pattern. What is the pattern itself? Is creating an awareness. When this happens, then this happens, right? When I hear, like for me, it used to be in the early stages of my own grief. When I heard the phone ring, that's how I found out about my sister's death. You know, the pattern was who's dead next. So I had to recognize that that was a pattern. Every time I would hear the phone ring, I would freeze up, right? My body would respond. And then my mind would go, who's dead now? And I'd start to get really scared and nervous.
Wow.
So that's the identification, number 1. Number 2 is once you're aware of the pattern, you want to notice how you use that pattern, how it's utilized. And so for me, it was about realizing that I had this one experience and I'm bracing myself for it to happen again. And so that's why that pattern showed up. So then I had to go to step number 3, is creating a new pattern. So whenever I heard the phone ring, I paused for a moment. I took 3 deep breaths and I thought to myself, maybe it's just a telemarketer, trying to sell me on something, right? Like, so that this way it's not automatically going into phone ring, who's dead now, phone ring, who's dead now. Now it's phone ring, take a deep breath, telemarketer. So you have to be able to identify, then how do you use those patterns, and then create a new one. And that's how you break the patterns. It takes effort. It takes constant repetition, because once we change those patterns, we then now need to root it into our nervous system so that it happens automatically.
You know what, Jason, that sounds so simplistic and it sounds easy to do, yet you and I both know it's not. It takes time. But because, and I'm not, and neither are you, but I'm also a realist. We are really in this society now where most everyone, the younger generation, the mid and the elders, want everything like overnight, more or less. I think technology's brought this to the fore.
Yes.
How do you begin to get those of us who've gone through this grief cycle or are in this grief cycle to begin this, recognize it, and how to create a different new pattern for it? What are some of the steps? How do you, and everyone is different. Yep. I love how you started off with that. The individuality, the originality, and the uniqueness of each individual is also what, in my humble opinion, we have to get more back to. Because more and more people are just looking the same, the mediocrity of that. But that said, how do you get us to begin this process?
Right. So first of all,
people aren't able to.
Yes. So I want to differentiate. It is simple. It's simple, but not easy. There's a very big difference, because it is simple. We identify it, we see how we use it, and we change it, but it's not easy because, we get in our own way. We have all of our own conditioned patterns. We sometimes want to sabotage ourselves. And so it is definitely simple, but not easy.
Love that.
The first thing that I always recommend is just creating a sense of awareness. And you can do that just by taking a couple of deep breaths and creating some space so that you can see, the pattern more clearly. Most of the time we're so busy running from, this thing to that thing, being distracted by 100 different things. It sometimes just takes a pause. And whether that be just taking about 2 or 3 deep breaths and just taking a moment, right? And then looking and seeing, you're able to see things more clearly. Deep breathing helps to relax the nervous system so that you're not in this fight or flight, or even this freeze mode, which is so common with grieving people. They either fight, they run, or they freeze. And the deep breath can help to reset that so that it's like, oh, right, here's my pattern. And once you can identify the pattern, then the rest is a little easier to do.
Oh, do I love you for that explanation. Let me share with you why. First off, as soon as you began to qualify, and I got it. I got it. I just didn't think before, which is common with me sometimes. Simple, but yet not easy. Let me tell you the analogy that came to mind. I had a beautiful, handsome young man come here the other day to help me with something. And I was saying to him, well, I'm a good listener. and so on and so forth. He said, well, listening and learning are two different elements.
Mm-hmm.
When you're listening, are you comprehending, or are you waiting just to respond to what someone is saying to you? It's the same analogy in a different way, different things we're talking about. Simple, but yet not easy.
Correct.
Because a lot of things are simple, but we don't comprehend. We don't take to it right away for numerous reasons. Do you get that? Of course you do.
100%. Well, because we get in our own way, Joy. Like, you know, like we've had like these experiences, and that's why I say the body's the recording device, right? Because it's taken all of those experiences, right? And it could be like, you know, I'll give you my own personal example and connect it with my story, right? When I grew up, I was like the short, fat kid in school. And so I got picked on a lot, and the kids would like say, oh, you're such a loser. You're such a loser. I'd be the ones picked last on like sports teams and that kind of stuff. And so I started to carry around that loser story with me. And that affected a good part of not just my childhood, but part of my adult life, because everything structured around the loss, even that I consider the death of my sister as part of the loser story, because it's another loss, right? Like what we think we become. And so once I was able to change that story, I realized that that story was a pattern I was telling myself. And so I restructured that story. And now I tell the champion story. Me as like the winner, the one who's going to conquer, that's going to, you know, that you're not going to be able to hold down. And I'm going to be so resourceful that I'm going to find solutions to any problem that I have. So now I've embraced this champion part of myself. And that gave me the courage to do this kind of work, to step out and talk on your show, on different podcasts, and to tell my story in a very confident ways to help other people.
Jason, thank you for sharing that, because I think many of us, different scenario entirely, but that kind of a saga story within us that we share, how we come to different. Mine was, as a young kid, I was always smiling, and most of the kids around me didn't like it that I was always smiling. They thought, you know, I'm always smiling, whatever. But that's scenario belongs to a lot of different people in different ways. So I get that. Tell me this. I like to go out of the box sometimes and off the rails. I do. And I'd say this because I think I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you. We as people grieve differently. So how do men and women grieve differently?
Yeah, it's a very, very different. Very different for sure. Men, I feel, they say that men are not emotional, and I don't believe that at all. I think that we, as men, we express our emotions in a different way. That's where the physicality, I think, especially from other men, comes into play, where we may not cry, but we'll sweat. So the liquid is coming out of the body, just not out of the eyes, but off the skin. So, you know, like we'll chop wood, I run, we'll do weight training, those kinds of things, we'll build stuff. Those are sometimes the ways in which men express that grief. Sometimes it comes out more physical than maybe necessarily with women, but but men are feeling that emotion, and it depends also on what generation, because I know I've had conversations with my own dad about that. He came from a generation where men just kind of bottle it up. Not that they don't feel it, they just push it down. And that's not healthy either. There has to be a good balance of getting it out, because emotions are just energy in motion, and they need to be expressed either in a creative way, like building stuff up, or they're going to come out in a destructive way, breaking things down. So we need to make sure, especially as men dealing with grief, that we use the constructive way of building up and not breaking down.
You know why I'm chuckling away here? Because I'm all about, this is why I say I'm the minister of enlightenment, awareness, and awakenings. The divine masculine and the divine feminine, finding our balance. Because our programming, yours and mine, different generations, has always been men don't cry, men don't show their emotions and all that kind of crapola. And I say that in love, because real men can cry, do cry. It's how you do it and with whom and so on and so forth. And women can be bold and courageous and all of that stuff. All of that old programming has to go.
Yep.
So I'm happy for your explanation, because in my generation growing up, it was always men don't cry, men don't show, men don't do this. They're always a bravo. And I get that. I understand it. But it's taken a lot away from our true essence.
100%. Yeah. And I know I've been working on my own masculinity sort of in the last bunch of years, because, you know, I realized that for many things, I learned to be a man from women, like from my mom and from what I see around. And there's a part of me that's actually shut down from that, because, you know, I haven't been aggressive, like not aggressive in a negative way, but aggressive in a very directed, focused way. And it's only been within the last maybe 3 years that I'm like, oh, I know what my purpose is. I'm going to be there and do that thing and really narrow in on it so that I can pursue it, because that's what is going to get me successful, when I can pursue that very fine focus, but in a very energized way.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Jason, thank you for that, because I think that applies to both men and women. And the key word for both of us who are the pioneers and the front runners, the people who are attempting to make a difference, is to find a balance between the masculine and the feminine in both genders.
Yes. Yeah. Because I know I would go down a little bit more on the feminine side. And then I'm like, well, that's not really supporting me and my family at all. So it wasn't until I really embraced that divine masculine within me and was able to find that better balance. And I don't really love the word balance, but that like counterbalance, because when you shift, you have to make the shift back, right? Like, and so it's always looking at what side of the coin you're flipping on.
Well, you leave me hanging here in a good way, because I do love learning, and I do comprehend, and I do learn, and I listen. You said you're not in favor of the word balance.
Yeah, because balance seems like it's
always
once we got it, we keep it. But that's not true, because once we put more weight on one side, the other side goes up. Then we have to put so we have to always find that fine tunement of it, and it's always organic, right? Like it's easy to go too much to one side, and we always have to be reevaluating.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Because when I think of balance, I think of a scale that goes depending on what you're putting on it and so on and so forth. But it is a seesaw. It's like one time this, one time that, but you're always aiming for the core, the center. So that's it. Jason, I tell you, I celebrate you. I applaud you. I bow. I don't put tiaras on anyone, but if I did, you would get one, a crown. But what are your takeaways? What is the food for thought? What do you want people to walk away with? We're in this holiday season. We're in this great season that it's about being thankful and grateful and all of that and celebrating ourselves. But what about those who are not able to? So what food for thought do you want to leave us with, all of us?
So I really think, especially in this time of like gratitude and joy, remember that some people are still struggling, especially in regardless of how long it's been. Sometimes the holiday season brings up those memories of family, of people that are no longer with us. So not everybody is happy and joyful. And that's why I go with hope, right? Like, because when you have hope, things can be better. And so just remember, be really authentic and ask and talk to people. If you know someone who's struggling, make some space and some time just to sit with them, right? Sometimes they just need someone to listen, especially because they're looking outside of themselves, and everybody's pushing this happy, joy for the holidays. And that's not really where they're at. That's not where they're at there on their journey. So just to have someone to say, hey, if you need to talk, I'm here.
That's it. You put it in a nutshell that has clarity for each and every one of us. Jason, I'm grateful for you. I'm thankful that you could come and spend time and space with us. My engineer is going to scoot you away, and I'll be with you in a second. Thank you. Oh, my Eagles, my League of Eagles. I think No one could have ended on a better note than Jason just did with us. We're going into a season of joy and thanks. First Thanksgiving, and then the holiday season, and then the new year. And remember to celebrate you, but in the process, remember all of those others who might not be as lucky or as fortunate as you. So thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate your energy and your presence. And the takeaway for me, remember what Jason said. He said that our bodies are like a recording device. It's very powerful, very, very powerful. I'd like to leave you with that gem. And I also like for you to remember this: empowerment means nothing without liberation. And that means that you are here to heed those body signals that we get. And we all get them from time to time, contingent upon all the different variables. I invite you to watch out for my next week's episode and subscribe at joyruffin.com/styleclarity for your complimentary bundle. Like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on my YouTube channel, Joy Ruffin, Fashioning Femininity, Style, and Truth. Style, beauty, and truth are the foundations for everything. Style and truth for more soulful conversations. And until we meet the next time, and we will very, very soon, I extend to you always much, much love. And so long for now, my League of Eagles. And as always, from my heart to yours, many, many thanks for sharing this time and space with us. So until the next time, stay radiant, stay confident, stay bold, spread your wings, and let your light shine, just as Jason did with us today. All the best and much love. Cheers.